Good afternoon, everyone. We like to start on time. My name is Rhonda Flanor Younger. I'm the Director of Recruitment, Outreach, and Admissions here in the School of Nursing. And the purpose of this information session is to give you more information about our pre-licensed Master's Entry to Clinical Nurse program. We call it MECN. This is first and foremost a fast-paced full-time program, and at the end of the program all of our graduates graduate with a Master's of Science in Nursing degree and are eligible to take the boards to become registered nurses. This program does not lead to a nurse practitioner. There are some entry-level master's programs that lead to become a nurse practitioner, but our program is not the case. At the end of the program, again, you'll be eligible to take the boards for your RN license, and then there's an additional certification, exam that you can take for your clinical nurse leader certification. The curriculum is based on the clinical nurse leader certification, but do know that once you graduate from our program, you'll be hired as any other new grad as a registered nurse. You will not go directly into a clinical nurse leader role. You need experience first, right? Yep, yes? Yes. Come on now, work with me, work with me. This is a photo of one of our cohorts. Actually, they just graduated this past June from our MECN program. So today, I will go over the overview of the MECN program and curriculum. And then Mark Hoven will go over the application process. Craig Kusunoki, who is the Director of Financial Aid, will speak to you about financial aid and what we offer here in the School of Nursing and University. And then we will have a panel of former and current students to introduce themselves and share their experience and answer any questions you might have of them as students in the MECN program. The Master's Entry Clinical Nurse program is designed for students that have a bachelor's degree in any other major other than nursing. It is a 2-year full-time program, which comes out to 22 months. The 22 months includes the summer in between the academic year. We are on the quarter system, so each quarter is 10 weeks and it goes by really fast. How many of you were on the quarter system in your undergraduate program? Oh, great. Those of you that were semester, get ready, start running from day one, because it goes by really, really fast. We admit 70 students a year, and we estimate between 400 to 500 applications a year. Why UCLA? Well, we pride ourselves to say that we are a small community within a big city. 70 students a year those students are who you're with the whole 2 years. So it's a small program. The faculty get to know the students and the students get to know the faculty. But you get experience and opportunities to take advantage of what the general UCLA campus has to offer. And so that's why we say a small community within a big city, because you get the best of both worlds. UCLA is ranked 5th in the nation, and we have a lot of resources here on the campus for our graduate students. We only admit once a year. The deadline is always November 1st for the following year. So November 1st, 2018 will be the deadline for those interested in applying for the fall of 2019. Again, we will go over specific details about the admissions process and the prerequisites. There is a big difference between undergraduate and graduate work, so when you're admitted, make sure you understand that this is a graduate degree. This is for mostly for adult learners. Most of our students are adult learners, and we do understand that some of you might have been out of school for a while, so just understand that it is a fast-paced program and it is taught at the graduate level. We have specific days that the classes and clinicals are offered, and so you have no choice of when you want to come to campus. We don't quote what days and what times because it changes, it varies every year, so we won't quote that. But do know that this is a full-time program and you cannot work full-time, let alone part-time. This program is to educate and provide the new workforce of RNs, to provide the next clinical leaders in the healthcare setting, and that's what we do. Pride ourselves with both of our pre-licensure programs, the MECN and the bachelor's program, that we are educating the next nurse leaders. Graduates will be prepared to deal with high acuity and high tech healthcare settings. When you go into your clinical settings, you get the opportunity to experience your clinicals in a teaching hospital, a community hospital, a private hospital. So you will get experience in the different hospital settings. The minimum GPA is a 3.0. This year, the university changed its policy, so it will be, the cumulative GPA will be considered. In previous year, it was your last 60 semester units or 90 quarter units, which equaled out to your junior and senior year. But we're happy that we don't have to calculate GPAs anymore, and it will be the cumulative GPA. Now, if any of you have 2 bachelor's degree, your first bachelor's degree will be considered for admissions. If you have a graduate degree, then we will request the official transcript from that graduate program. But again, your bachelor's GPA will be considered. Your GPA will be considered for admissions, but we will take into consideration that you do have a graduate degree as well. We, myself, Mark Hoven, Stephanie, and Jamie, who you met up front, we are the admissions and recruitment team. We handle all applications from bachelor's all the way to PhD. And so we do our best to inform all of our applicants of their admission status by mid-March. Yeah, write that down. And that will be the latest you will hear by mid-March, okay? We do have a wait list, so we admit 70 students. We generally have about 30 students, 30 to 40 students on the wait list, and we rank order those on the wait list. So as students decline our admissions, we go down the wait list and offer admissions to those on the wait list. Now, why people don't make us their #1 choice, we still don't understand. But it does happen. We do not defer admissions, so if you are offered admissions for the fall of 2019 and something happens where you cannot enroll, you would have to reapply for admissions for the following year. You will not be guaranteed admissions because it all depends on the applicant pool at that time. But the only good thing is that your application fee will be waived if you apply the following year, and that's only if you are offered admissions. If you're reapplying and were denied 1 year, then you would reapply as a new applicant, and you would have to pay that additional fee. Was that clear? Okay. We only admit to all of our programs once a year, and that is for the fall. And as you can see, the application process begins a year in advance. The School of Nursing is offered graduate student housing slots for our nursing students. We get about 20 apartments in Westwood. First priority goes to those from out of state. Second priority goes to doctoral students. And third priority goes to those that live the furthest. So if you want to apply for graduate student housing, you can apply for one of our slots or directly to the graduate housing for one of their slots. When you're offered admissions, you will get this information in your offer email. Our retention rate is really good. I would say it's about 90 to 95% retention rate. So that's all I can say about that. It's really good. They do their best to help the students succeed in the program. So you don't have to really worry about that. We do understand that life happens, challenges happen, and then you will sit with the director of student services and figure out what you can do. But other than that, the retention rate is really high. We don't have the percentage of students that pass the NCLEX the first time for our graduates that just graduated because they have not taken the NCLEX yet. But in the previous year, 95% of our graduates from our MECN program passed the boards, the NCLEX, the first time. We're excited about that. Okay. So we're going to go over the curriculum. So again, this is a 2-year program. For the first year, winter and spring quarter, students are taking Med-Surg. We literally just got the sample course sequence hot off the press, and so it might be a little different from what you have because we haven't really reviewed the sample course sequence for the fall 2018. This is what we have for now. Summer session, usually the students take mental health and adult gero. And in the second year, fall quarter, they take peds and maternity. Winter quarter of their second year is their immersion. And what the immersion is that their students are partnered with the preceptor for the whole 10-week quarter. If the preceptor works on Saturday from 7 to 7 p.m., guess what? You will work 7 to 7 p. You will work when your preceptors work. At the end of the quarter, the students are asked to give a poster presentation on a project that they wrote up. I like to use patient safety as an example. Sometimes the students will come up with their own project. It's like a capstone project. And sometimes the nurse manager will come up with the capstone project that they want the students to do. And 9 out of 10, the floors that you work on actually use what our students researched and came up with. So we are really excited about that. They try to give you your first choice of where you want to complete your immersion. They ask what floor you're interested in and what hospital. So you get one or the other. Most people get their first choice. So if you're admitted into the program, and you probably won't remember this 2 years from now, but just think of me telling you to pick the hospital where you would like to work after you graduate from the program and get to know the nurse managers at that time. And then the spring quarter, the students are taking public health, and they take a comp written examination to graduate. So again, this is a sample course sequence. Generally, students are here on Monday Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 days per week. The winter quarter of the first year, they're here 3 days a week. But it varies because the days vary because you start your clinicals then, so it determines on when your clinicals are. And then the second year, again, the days vary, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Winter varies because you're in your immersion. And then the spring quarter of the second year is when it kind of calms down and you're here 2 days a week. So I said all this to say, like I said in the beginning, it will be really hard to work a full-time job. You won't be successful if you're trying to work full-time and go to school full-time. You can only work part-time if your employers will work with you around your school hours. But I do recommend that if you don't have to work part-time, don't. So this is the time commitment for all students at UCLA. It's a fast-paced program. I can't say that enough. And you have to take it seriously, and it's no joke. So nursing school, no matter where you attend, is hard, okay? So for every 3 hours of work, you are expected to, for each unit, you are expected to study in and out of the classroom for 3 hours. So for instance, if you have 14 units per quarter, then you are expected to devote 42 hours of time in and outside of the classroom to study. But again, you guys are adult learners, so you know how you function. Some people procrastinate and get straight A's. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. So just take into consideration that you will need to devote some time to studying in and out of the classroom. And then we also suggest that all the students have a core study group because it's so much material to take in that you can't study just on your own. Our students find other students that they feel comfortable with studying for in different subjects. And you know, you might be good in pharmacology, another student might be good in health assessment, and you just, you know, help each other out. And that's what nursing is about. It's not about competition. So I am going to hand it off to Mark Colvin, and he will be taking questions as we go over the application process. All right.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Sounds good. All right. So I'll go over the application process. First thing is the MECN application is going to be part of the UC application or UCLA application. And to get to that, you're going to have to go to www.grad.ucla.edu. The application typically opens up probably after Labor Day. Typically, we don't necessarily get a specific date until later on into the summer, and it's September is a little closer. So we'll be usually after Labor Day. Last year was a little bit later, but typically it's after Labor Day. All right. So I know Rhonda went over basically the application type earlier in terms of readmission and the renewal, but I'm assuming everybody here will be a new applicant. So when you go on to the application, you would choose new for the application type. You will also have to choose the major / program. And the reason why we have this here that says nursing, MECN, is because we have 2 master's programs. Okay. We have one that's an MECN APRN program. What that is for those that graduate with a BSN. They want to find and receive an NP, nurse practitioner, CNS, specialist program. Okay. It's really imperative that you guys choose nursing, MECN, MECN, so that when we go through the review process, we know which program you guys want to apply for. Okay. All right. So as you go into the application, it's going to ask for you to submit your academic history. So we only need you to input where you received your bachelor's degree. Okay. So So I know a lot of you guys have either completed prerequisites and or went to an associate program before maybe even transferring to your 4-year bachelor's degree, okay? But for this instance, you're just going to put your highest education. Okay, so that would be your bachelor's degree, or even for those that may have received the master's degree, you will also put that as well. So you're putting your bachelor's degree, master's degree. You're not going to implement or put any associate programs or community colleges. You're also going to have to upload your unofficial transcripts, okay? So in the past, you have to upload unofficial transcripts and then also submit an official transcript. It's still relatively the same, okay? So for the application, you're going to have to submit an unofficial transcript. But at some point, we're going to need an official transcript. So if you want, you can order your official transcript and send it to us now. Or what will happen is we will be able to use your unofficial transcripts for the application process. But if admitted, we're going to have to ask you to send an official transcript, okay? So it's really up to you on when you want to do it, but to tell you the truth, it would be easier for us if you would submit your official transcripts now. That way we don't have to ask for it. And here's the next thing with unofficial transcripts. I know a lot of people raise their hand in terms of quarter systems, so you guys may be at UCs, whatever the case is. And so like UCs, UCLA sends like a DPR, right? That necessarily is not going to work in terms of the unofficial transcript, because the way that is set up, it's not like in chronological order in terms of the quarters. So what you could do is you should be able to maybe sign on or maybe go to the registrar's office and actually ask for an unofficial transcript, because that way it's clear. If you want to go ahead and submit your unofficial transcript or submit your official transcript, you could do that as well, but you will have to upload your unofficial. Okay? Make sense? Perfect. Okay. As you know, official transcripts, for them to be official, they have to be sealed. So what you can do is you can have your university send it directly to us. We'll have the address up in one of the slides. Or you can have it sent to you and then have it sent to us as well. Just make sure it's sealed and unopened. All right, so we're going to move on to the statement of purpose. So in the statement of purpose, you're going to have the opportunity to write 2 to 3 pages, double space. And in there, as you see, there's a list in terms of what we would like you to put into that. So the first thing is, why do you want to become a nurse? Right? It should be obvious. So you want to give the duties of why you want to get into the nursing profession and the nursing career. We also want you to talk about why the reason for choosing UCLA. Okay, there's plenty of nursing programs out there, especially in Los Angeles, California, and so forth. But what is it about our school that's going to help you in terms of your career path? Okay. For instance, like how we offer casino. That's something you're interested in. One of the reasons, as well as other reasons. Okay, you also want to give us a self-assessment for your success. Okay. You talk about what you feel you're going to be able to do to succeed, what have you done in the past to succeed academically as well. So you want to implement that. Your goals for a nursing career. So after going through our program, there's so many things that nurses can do after graduating. So we want you to kind of give us an idea of what it is at this point you want to do. Obviously, it could change as you go through the program, or it can even change after you graduate and you have to start working in a hospital clinical setting. At the time of application, we want you to kind of give us a reason why for what you want to do for your nursing career. And in there, we also want you to talk about your volunteer experience in healthcare and any other relevant experience. So for those, I always like to give ideas out there. So we have people that maybe go on mission trips. Maybe go to underserved, third world countries, places like that. We have those that may become ENTs, CNAs, LVNs, anything of that nature, obviously because it's not RN experience, but you're getting healthcare experience. And with that, you can talk about what you may have seen, what you may do, and how that's helped you transition into, again, the nursing career. Okay? We also want you to talk about leadership activities and any qualities as well that you've done during the time up to your application period. Okay. Leadership experience can be you guys are maybe just graduating, or you guys are founder of an organization, club, anything of that nature. Maybe after graduating, like you started something else. So that shows leadership experience. Or in your current job, you can take on a leadership role. So we want you to also put that as some examples that let us know about your leadership experience. Also, we want you to talk about or include your multicultural experience in your to be, again, traveling somewhere, going to an underserved area, basically including yourself in different demographics or diversity experience. We also want you to talk about and/or give examples that how you're able to respond to different challenges. Okay? So social, economical. We want you to talk about that. Also talk about your first generation. Okay. So there should be a lot of people here are first generation. You can also talk about being bilingual. So many different labels, or not levels, different languages. Los Angeles, there's so many different languages being spoken. In the hospital as well. So talk about your experience if you use that education as well. Okay, so we basically listed off a whole lot of things. You don't necessarily have to have them all, but of course, the more you have, the more competitive you can be. Okay, so I will go back to that, but it's also the same for the personal history statement. So for the statement of purpose, you're obviously going to have to type it and write it. I know, self-explanatory, you're going to have to upload it. Okay, so I had to say that. So something that is actually new for this application is going to be the personal history statement. And so in the past, this was still on the application, but it wasn't something that the School of Nursing required. So we would tell people not to worry about this. But now you have to do a personal history statement. And basically what it is actually overtaking the diversity statement that was on the application. Okay? So in the personal history statement, it obviously should not be duplicated in terms of the statement of purpose because you're going to be talking about two different things. So for instance, we want you to describe your background, accomplishments, life experiences that led you to choose this profession. In there, we want you to talk about any educational, personal, cultural, that is, or in terms of economic or social experiences and the challenges that have to do with your academic journey. All right. Also want you to describe any aspects of your personal background and accomplishments that will allow the department to evaluate your contributions. So really what this is, we want you to talk about the diversity. Because when it comes to those that are getting into our program, Craig, who's not going to meet later, uses this in terms of providing you guys with scholarships. Okay? So this is kind of what it's taken over for the diversity statement. All right. So this, you don't necessarily talk about why you want to get into a nursing program. You really want to focus on these parts.
As well as first generation needs to be included.
Thank you. So also, even though I think I might have said earlier in the statement of purpose, that could be duplicated. We want to talk about the first generation. Thank you. Okay. Resume. I know everyone here is in the resume. But we want you to highlight your education, including your honors received, work experience, volunteer experience, again, your professional organizations, associations. So you can basically list it off typically your academic experience, right? Professional, add your volunteering, community service, all that kind of just going down the line. We want it to also be in chronological order. What you can do as well as I know a lot of times when you guys are applying to jobs, they usually want it to be one page. For us, it can exceed one page, right? Because we obviously want to know a lot more about you. So you can exceed one page, make it two, far, but two is fine. Yes, question.
Is there a cap?
Is there a cap? Say that one more time.
Mine says 6 pages. Is there a cap?
Oh, yours is 6 pages. Is there a cap? No, there is no cap, to be honest with you. Okay? And the reason for it is if you feel everything that you've done is important, why not put it down? Right? So no, there's no cap.
His microphone isn't working? Oh, okay. So
Hi there. I just have a question regarding the format. Did you want it in like an essay format, not the resume, but like the self-assessment and the multicultural? Did you want us to just kind of?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so I know if you guys have probably applied to other programs that kind of give you questions and then you have to answer them. For us, there's no questions. It's really just implementing what I stated earlier, and you let it free flow and you write it however you want. So you want to touch upon any of those different parts that I asked for in terms of the statement of purpose.
Okay.
On the personal history statement, the same thing.
Okay.
So there's no type of format in terms of how to write it.
Okay. So you're okay with if we just say like the multicultural diversity experience, and then we just write a paragraph about that, and then move on to another subject and a paragraph about that?
That is totally up to you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And then again, of course, you will go ahead, type it up, upload it into the application. Okay, so I know this is where a lot of questions are going to come, all right? Because you guys have been really cool lately with these non-questions. I feel like I'm doing a great job, but I know there's going to be questions coming up here. So we're going to talk about the prerequisites. So the first thing is we do have a list of approved courses on our website. So that's the first thing, because we know there's people that went in, in here that have gone to different universities and may have questions about prereqs and where they've taken them. So I'm going to go through the list, but then also remember you can go to our website to see if any of the classes you've taken are on our approved list. If it's not, it does not mean it's not approved. It just means we may not have ran across that specific course that you took. So if you have a question about it, you can email any of us. We'll be able to evaluate it and let you know if it's acceptable or not. Okay? So the first one, we'll go over chemistry. So for chemistry, we're looking for an introduction to inorganic, organic, and biochemistry. Now, a lot of people think, does this have to be 3 separate classes? It does not. Okay? So again, depending on where you've gone or where you may go, you can satisfy it in 1, 2, maybe 3 classes. So again, you would have to look at that course, maybe look at the course description and see what it has, what it entails. Does the class have inorganic, organic, and biochemistry in 1, or you're going to have to take a part 1 and part 2 of a course, okay? But we will need you to satisfy this. Epidemiology is actually the only prerequisite that can be outstanding when you're applying, okay? With that, it's not offered at the community college, and there's not a lot of universities that offer this course. So what we've done is we've offered this course for the admitted student to take at UCLA during the summer prior to starting the program in the fall. So for instance, for the students that are getting ready to start in September, they're currently taking the class now here at UCLA, actually here in this auditorium, okay? Then there's human anatomy, and then there's the only prerequisite that we have that has a time limit. That's human physiology. So it's 5 years, but as you see, it's 5 years to the date of entering the program. So for fall 2019, the latest would be in the year of 2014. All right? Then there's microbiology, there's statistics. It does say preferred, but if it's past 5 years, that's fine. We can still accept it. Then there's intro to psychology. So some people have some questions about this one as well. We're only looking for general or intro psychology. So we cannot accept lifespan. There's developmental. There's other type of psych courses that some people will try to put down in the application, and that's unacceptable. So we can only accept intro or general. Okay, and then we also have written communication. So we're going to look for 2 writing courses. Okay. Any type of course that was writing intensive is something that we should be able to accept. But again, if you have any questions on that, you can send us a course description and we can look at it. Question?
What about courses that you received AP credit for?
Yeah, so our question was about courses that you receive AP credit. So the first thing is we do accept AP credit. It does depend on the prerequisite as well. So for instance, we're just on the written communication. So at UCLA, we only accept a 4 or 5. But if you went to a UC and you got credit for your AP, we will also accept it, right? Because it's the same through UCs, okay? But we will only accept our 4 or 5, and to be honest, that's for any of the prerequisites. But here's another thing. We only accept 1 AP course. So you can't use 3 or 4, classes of AP credit, okay? Same. So you have the option of 1 AP course or a pass, no pass, but it'll have to be a pass, okay, right? So 1. Question?
So for the written English requirement, it says it needs 2 courses. Does that include a critical thinking element to it too?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, it does include critical thinking. Yeah, so community colleges usually would have like a English 103, right, and that's the critical thinking. Yes, we would accept that. And then last is a verbal communication, which is public speaking. Okay, so we'd also have to complete that as well. So again, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. All these prerequisites, except epidemiology, have to be completed by the end of this fall semester or quarter, depending on where you're going. Okay, so what does that mean? Application is due November 1st. Your courses will most likely be in progress as you submit the application. You have until the end of December to complete those courses with a C or better, submit the transcript to us, all right? We'll talk about other deadlines as well.
Please don't ask your question until we hand you the mic. Thank you.
For the communication requirement, I know that some programs will use the English composition or will accept the English composition classes that you've taken as a communication requirement. Is that the case here, or does it have to specifically say public speaking or communication in the course title?
Well, it would be easier for us if it flat out said verbal communication or public speaking, but then again, you know, with all these prerequisites and different schools that offer different classes, always just send us a course description and we'll be able to let you know if it's acceptable or not.
Would this also qualify for master's level courses in these categories?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so master's level also does work for some of these prerequisites as well. So yes, it's a good question.
I request you to say something about the foreign earned degrees and where to take them to be evaluated. And also, another question is, if I did chemistry like 10 years ago, is it okay? Will it be accepted? Or so it also has some like time limit or years backward. Thank you.
Yeah, so to answer this recent question, chemistry does not have a time limit. So if it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we can accept it. Now here's the thing, because you completed it so long ago, when you get into the program, it's not going to be so current, right? So depending on what classes you may be taking, it may hurt you in terms of your progression, okay? Your first question, and this is for anybody who's an international student, we do the evaluation here at UCLA, and so what you'd have to do is submit, and this is, well, for everybody. When you are submitting your application, you have to submit your official transcript, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is if it's not in English, your university is gonna have to get it translated as well, okay? So translated to English. And we're also gonna have to see a diploma as well, okay? So with that, we'll be able to do the evaluation. The reason why I pause is because we were gonna go over the international kind of section in there. So I'll wait to get to that, but hope that answers the question, right? Okay. Yeah, this might be the next slide, so hold on a quick second.
Hey, wait.
I have a question. If you were to repeat courses, I was wondering if you take the higher grade or do you average the two out?
Okay, great question. So in terms of prerequisites, we accept the highest grade. Okay, yeah, we take the highest grade. So if you took it, you received a C, and that school was letting you retake it again, you got an A, we'll take the A. So we don't average them out. Yeah.
So for chemistry, I think there is like the lab class and then there is the theoretical class. So both of them are required, or it has to be specified on the transcript if it is like lab and theory.
So good question. So for our science courses, we do not require lab, okay? But here's the thing. If you're going to that certain school and they require you to take the lab, along with the lecture, then that's something you're going to have to do. You're not going to be able to say, hey, well, UCLA says, I don't have to take the lab. You're going to have to complete the lab as well, but we're only going to take the lecture.
I'm wondering if online courses for written English and speech will be accepted.
Yeah, so we actually accept online courses for any of our prerequisites. Now, here's the thing. First, we'd have to make sure that the school that you're going to is accredited and it's something that we'll accept. And then two, we want to make sure that that class, again, is satisfying our prerequisite. Okay?
Hello. I noticed online it said biostatistics. Is that the same?
Great job. Okay, so it is either statistics or biostatistics. Okay, so yes, maybe we should put this up there. But yeah, it's either one.
Sorry.
I've seen this in some colleges where there's a chance of challenging some of the prerequisites with a sitting exam. Is it possible with this one also?
Yeah, so no, it is not possible to challenge any of these prerequisites. They do have to be completed with a letter grade of C or better, and or one of the AP courses. Great question.
For the written English requirement, would courses that were designated as writing intensive, even if they weren't in the English department at the school that I attended, be accepted?
Yeah, it would. So yeah, if you've taken a writing intensive course that didn't say English, so forth, or maybe writing, and then the course number, does not mean it won't be accepted. Again, we would probably most likely really have to look at the course description to make sure that it's writing intensive, but yeah. No problem. I like this. Hop it. Okay, go ahead. No, you go.
Okay, so for statistics and biostatistics, I've taken both. Do you want the most recent one or you want the highest grade one? Or
What would you do?
well, they're both the same grade. So.
Oh, okay. Then
so do you want the most recent one?
Choose.
Oh, whichever. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, since you said you're looking at our GPA, our cumulative GPA, do any of our prerequisites fall into that? Or is it just cumulative, our bachelor's degree GPA?
Yeah, so great question. So any prerequisite that you take after graduating is not going to go into your GPA. Okay. So yeah, everything that you've taken within your 4 years or however long it took you to graduate, that's what we'll end up calculating for your GPA. Or we don't really have to calculate it anymore. It's going to show us. But yeah, courses that you take after are not going to go into your GPA. So in essence, you can't really boost your GPA now that you've graduated. But they will be considered.
Okay, I have a question about statistics as well. For the applicant that's taken it after the 5-year time frame, preferred, would you advise them to retake it or just let it be?
Let it be.
Okay.
Especially if you received an A or B, let it be. Yeah. And then as she's asking this next question, so as you guys know, we accept C or better, but of course we prefer A's and B's. So again, depending on how many C's you have, it may be better for you to, again, think about maybe wanting to retake that class, again, to make yourself the most competitive.
Hi, I have a question about statistics. So if I took a stats course in my behavioral undergrad program, does that count or does it have to be an introduction to statistics course?
Yeah, so for statistics, no, that'll work. The only one we're really adamant about is the intro to psychology. Okay. So yeah, doesn't matter.
I had a question about what you were mentioning about the GPA and then classes that come after. Mm-hmm. So it's possible then to have a certain GPA, but then you retake a class and you have an A in it instead of a C, let's say. So it's possible. So I wonder how you guys view that, like a higher GPA versus like A's in a class you took afterwards.
Okay, so I think I'm getting what your question is. So let's say in your undergrad, you received a C in a class, okay? Now that C is gonna be part of your GPA because it's part of your cumulative GPA. Then you've graduated, you retake it, you get an A, okay? We will look at the A for the prerequisites. So we will no longer look at the C in order to use it as a prerequisite. But that C is still gonna be used in your GPA. Make sense? Yes.
So what about advanced degrees? So say, for instance, you got your bachelor's degree and then you went on and you got another advanced degree first. How does that factor in?
Yeah, so like Rhonda was saying, in terms of the admissions, we would look at the bachelor's degree. So for someone who has 2 bachelor's degrees, we look at the first one. Now for someone who has a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree, we're still gonna look at the bachelor's degree, okay, in terms of admission. But in the application review phase, I should say, students can receive additional points for having a graduate degree. So it's not all lost by having a graduate degree. Yes.
Is the fulfillment of these prerequisite classes clear from our transcript, or do we submit it as part of like a separate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, actually the transcript will be the best indication. And the reason why is because on the application, you're gonna actually, it's gonna be blank, but it'll say chemistry, and then it'll say include the institution, course number, the grade, and when you completed it, right? So you're actually filling that out. But should we trust you guys? So, right, so what we're doing is we're waiting for the unofficial or the official transcript to come in, and then we're actually gonna look to verify to make sure that the grade is correct, the class is correct, and so forth.
Quick question. I think you already answered it earlier, but for a micro class, if they gave 2 grades for lecture and lab, will you combine the 2 different grades to average that out?
No, we're only gonna look at the lecture. Yeah, and sometimes it can be detrimental, right? Because I've seen where someone received an A in the lab and then a C in the lecture. We're not gonna average them out, we're just gonna look at the lecture. So it would be the C and not the A.
So let's say for my junior and senior year, like within that year period, I took one of the prereqs at like a JC college. Would that still be a cumulative to my GPA going with my bachelor's degree, like GPA, or is that just separate? You guys just look at it separate?
Yeah, it's another good question. So my next question would be to you, it could be rhetorical, is did you transfer that course in? If you transferred the course in, then it will be part of your 4-year undergrad GPA. If you just went to take the course, just to take it, maybe for a prereq, whatever the case is, but you're not transferring it in, it's looked at separately.
Hello. For epidemiology, can it be taken somewhere else if we do find it somewhere else?
Yes, you can. So epidemiology, we do have an approved course list. It's very slim in terms of the courses that we accept from different universities, so you can take it somewhere else.
And
I would recommend, I would recommend taking it here. Not to take your money, but honestly, it's a good kind of preparation in terms of getting ready to start the program in the fall. You're also gonna be with your current classmates who are getting ready to start. And the students who actually complete it here, I feel it really does them well as they start the program.
okay. Also, I'm hearing that the older students, we are competing with 4.57 GPA. Is that correct?
No, and
No?
I mean, no, it's a good question. You can't get a 4.5 in college, so that's the first thing. But I get what you mean.
Out of high school, I mean.
No, I get what you mean. So you're probably just saying, for those that may have just graduated, right, and they have a 3.8, 3.9, you've maybe graduated, don't answer, I'll just say 10 to 15 years ago, right? And so you're kind of saying, how can I compete, right? It really doesn't matter who graduated first or who graduated last. Your GPA is your GPA, okay? The next thing would be, again, in terms of the statement of purpose, how we kind of outline different things of what to include. One thing that you may have over the next person is life experience, okay? Right, and that can be in terms of anything.
Do I even have a chance, you know? That's
Well,
what my
here's another thing. Everybody who applies has a chance. Everybody who does not apply knows they're not going to get in. So the best thing to do is kind of just hear out, what we're saying, and then taking it in and saying, okay, what do I need to do in terms of making myself a more competitive applicant? Is it maybe retaking prereqs, getting some more experience, things like that.
But if you just said, if you take prereqs, it's not counting towards your GPA from your bachelor's degree.
Mhm. That is correct. But if you're taking prereqs now and you're getting A's in them, they're obviously showing that you're a better student now than you were in the past.
Gotcha. Okay,
Mhm.
thank
So
you.
everything that you do for this application is going to be beneficial.
Oh, thank you. Hi there. I think you mentioned this earlier. I just want to clarify. So I got my undergrad in a completely different field. And say, for example, if I have the minimum requirements 3.0, right? So say if I have like a 2.8 or something, for example, and now I'm in a different school taking the prerequisite classes, you're only looking at the undergrad GPA and not counting the prereqs, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see. So say if the prereqs GPA is lower than the minimum requirement of 3.0, then that person does not have a chance?
No, it's also a good question. That is not something I guess we talked about yet. We do admit students that are under a 3.0 GPA.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Based off
So-
of, like, what do you look at besides the GPA?
Everything I've been talking about, statement of purpose.
Oh,
I'm going to go over the letter of recommendations, or if I haven't.
so it's like the
Resume.
whole package besides the GPA?
Yeah, we look at the student or the applicant holistically. Okay. Yeah, I know nursing programs are very competitive, and some may just look at just your grades and the prereqs, and then that's all they're going to look at in terms of admitting the student. That's not how we work here at UCLA. So I think that's the plus side in terms of someone wanting to apply.
Great, thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, we're only gonna take a couple more. I know I saw a hand back here and a hand down here. Did I see a hand back here? Okay, well, I'm gonna come down here.
So like for students who have like double bachelor degrees, are you gonna just pick the one that has like a higher GPA, or like do I like specifically like tell you guys like please look at this one, not the other one?
Good question. I wish it worked like that. But we would look at your first one. Right.
So like the first one that I entered in college with.
The first degree you graduated with. So you double majored, graduated once. On your transcript, it says you graduated with your bachelor's degree in arts and a bachelor's degree in humanities. It's relatively the same. You're going to have, the GPA is going to be the same. Thank you.
I have two questions. The first one is, you specified that for psychology, it has to say the introduction to psychology. For microbiology, it's not necessary that it has to say introduction to microbiology.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So for microbiology, it could be introduction. It could say general, whatever the case is. That's fine. But for psych, again, it has to say intro or general.
Okay. The second question is regarding the chemistry. So the transcript has to specify that it's has to separate the inorganic, organic, and biochemistry.
No, it does not necessarily. Okay, and this is where this prerequisite gets really tricky, because you can have one class that no matter what the title of it says, if we look in the description, it will most likely let us know there's inorganic in it, has a component of organic and biochemistry. Okay, so my biggest thing would be is look at your transcript, see what it says. If it says general, most likely that by itself is not going to work, right? So kind of look at it and say, okay, do I think this is going to satisfy the three components? If not, send us a course description. The biggest thing, guys, is don't feel like you're bothering us. Really, this is why we're here. We're really to help you, kind of get you started in terms of wanting to apply and making sure that when you do apply, you're most comfortable from what you submit. So please, if you have any questions, send us the course description.
So my question was because I did my bachelor's from India, and I think in India the transcript would say chemistry and would not specify like the inorganic and organic. So would you still need the course description from that time? Okay.
Oh, yes, we would, yeah. No matter where you graduated from, we would need a course description.
Especially if it was just one chemistry course listed, we definitely would need the course description. But if you took 3 chemistry courses, then we won't pretty much satisfy it. Okay, we need to move on, folks, but we will be here afterwards, so if you have additional questions, we'll answer them at that time.
Okay, so these 4 bulletin points is something I think I might have already mentioned throughout you guys' questions. So as you know, all prereqs except epidemiology have to be completed by the end of this fall semester, which is December. For fall 2019, no exceptions. And then again, if admitted, epidemiology will be able to be completed during the summer prior to starting the program in the fall. One more time, all prerequisites need to be completed with a C or better, so no C minuses. You can put a C on the app, we'll look at the transcript, it says C minus, and we'll let you know it's not acceptable. And then again, before you want to send us a course description, go ahead and check our approved course list. Your class may already be on there, and then if it's not, feel free to send us a course description. Okay, so for the last part of the application is going to be the letter of recommendations. So we're going to require 3 letters of recommendations, all right? And so it is a little bit different in terms of the typical letter of recommendation that people may think of. For our letter of recommendations, it's an actual form. So as you go into the application, you're going to input your recommender's name, the email address, press add or send, wherever the application is going to have it indicated. When you do that, your recommender is going to receive an email from UCLA, most likely UCLA Graduate Division, stating that they've been chosen to write a letter of recommendation. Okay. So with that, our letter of recommendation is a form. Okay. So we have a grid form. In the grid form, there's going to be maybe 10 to 15 type of check marks. How's your oral expression? How's your writing ability? How is your maturity? Things like that. And they're going to say that you're excellent, outstanding, average, below average, do not know. You want to stay on the left side, not on the right side, okay? Besides that, there will be maybe 2 or 3 questions that they'll be able to type in answers. How well do you know this student? Do you feel this student will be able to succeed in the nursing program, right? Any reservations? Okay, so they have to complete that form. But sometimes recommenders feel the form may not do you justice in terms of who you are. Again, they have to submit the form, but in years past, they were able to upload also a letter. We're hoping that's also something that applicants will be able to do as well. Okay, so you have to do the form, and then optional would be the actual letter that your recommender would write for you. Okay, so who do you want to choose? Or who should you choose? First thing is you want to make sure that you know the person, okay? And when I say know the person, how is your guys' relationship? What have they seen you in? What type of capacity? Is it in the classroom? Is it in a healthcare setting? Whatever the case is. Do you feel this person will be able to write you a letter of recommendation? That's the next thing. Seems simple, but that's the next thing. Do they know that nursing is your career path? Do they know that you want to get into nursing schools? Do they know what type of program? You want to ask these sorts of questions maybe to yourself and then think, okay, this recommender knows. One other thing, or several other things, they cannot be family or friends, okay? We say that all the time, but someone could use, their aunt, their uncle, another relative, a cousin, and how do we find out? We're going to ask them how they know you, okay? So sometimes they give that up, right? So you can use an employer, supervisor, professor, mentor, whoever you want, but obviously at the professional setting. So as you see, the second to last bulletin does say health-related setting, so preferably a nurse, right? So if you're volunteering, if you've gone somewhere, if that person's a nurse, that would be a pretty good recommender, right? Current employer / supervisor or college professor / instructor. And then basically the first one just talks about how them knowing your accomplishments and your experience, right? And how they can reflect to your leadership roles, your community service and or volunteering service that you've done. Okay.
For the, oh, sorry, for the letter of recommendations, is it specific to maybe you want one that has to be from an instructor, two from an employer, or does it vary?
Yeah, so you can choose any 3 recommenders that you like, right? So you don't, if you've been out of school for a long time and you may not have kept in relationship or contact with a professor, I wouldn't recommend using one, right? So that's the thing. So if you want to use someone all in the profession, well, they're all professionals, but if you want to use them all maybe in terms of work experience or volunteer experience, you can do that. Okay. The biggest thing is really just choosing your recommender, no matter what their profession is, that they'll be able to say, you'd be a great addition to our program, a great addition to the nursing profession.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, because I know you said that they would fill out a form. So each person that does, that you've asked to do a letter of recommendation would have to, 1, fill out a form, and then 2, provide a separate letter, correct?
Sort of.
Okay.
So the first one, yes, they have to complete the form.
Okay.
They do not have to write a letter.
I
That's
see.
optional. They have to complete the form, though.
But is it that after they upload they answer the questions, like it'll be very easy for them to see, or is it a separate email?
So would it be easier for you to see the applicant or for the recommender to see it? Yeah, so after they submit it, they should get some type of notification that lets them know that they submitted it successfully. Okay, here's the next thing too. My first question to you was how you as an applicant, how do you know when your recommender submitted it, right? On there, it's on your application, it's gonna indicate it. It's gonna let you know when it was sent and then when your recommender actually completed the form. There's also a reminder button or tab or something like that to where, you know, you open the application up after Labor Day, whatever the case is, you put your recommender's name, and now it's, you know, it's getting closer to the deadline. You can always press reminder, and then they're gonna get an email reminding them that they have to write a letter of recommendation for you.
I just want to add one other thing is that let them know that to look for the email from UCLA Grad Division because a lot of times it will go to their clutter or junk mail folder. And so just give them a heads up to look for it and look in all their email folders because a lot of times they'll say, well, I didn't get it, and it's in their clutter or junk mail.
Mark. So on the tip sheet, I know it says, and somebody pointed that out, that it is, it's required that they do a college professor or an instructor. But if it's been a long time that you've been in school, you don't have to, because maybe those people don't remember you from 10 years ago. They might hurt you instead of helping you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Can you use colleagues or does it have to be your supervisor?
Great question. No colleagues. Great question.
One more, and then we'll move on.
Do the employers and the supervisors have to be current, or can we use previous supervisors and employees?
Yeah, so we would look for it to be current. But let's say you and or your employer maybe have moved on to another company, another position, wherever the case is, and then you have a new supervisor that just came in that may not know you too well, right? We wouldn't want to put you in that predicament again, right? So you could use a past one. But again, we would look forward to it being current. Okay, so for international applicants, and this is for those that graduated from a foreign university where the primary language is not English. You will have to take the TOEFL exam and or IELTS. So for TOEFL, you're gonna have to score at 87, at least an 87, or for the IELTS, you're gonna have to score a 7 or higher. And as the institutional code, it's gonna be 4837, and for the intended graduate major, code, it's going to be 0610.
So my question would be, if I did my bachelor's from a different country, from an international country, but then I did my master's here in United States, do I still have to take the TOEFL and GRE?
Good question. So first, I think I heard GRE. GRE is not required for this program, guys, okay? But if you graduated from a foreign university and then, again, came back to the States or whatever the case is, completed a master's degree or another degree, then your TOEFL or IELTS is waived. So you do not have to take that exam.
Excuse me. My bachelor's is in foreign language, but the master's degree from the University of Liverpool. So it's the same, yeah? The TOEFL will be waived or?
Liverpool, that's England.
English, yeah.
Okay, that's England. No, then yes, that would also be waived as well.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, England, UK, as well as Canada are
Okay,
waived.
thank you.
If I studied abroad, but those were part of my undergrad, you don't need those transcripts, kind of going back to the previous slide, but translated or anything?
Yeah, so they don't have to be translated, but I guess I'm assuming here that your study abroad should be in your undergraduate transcripts, so that's fine.
Okay. Everybody's talking about master's. Associate's degrees from the US, in this case, to waive the TOEFL. Sorry.
We do, actually, so that's a great question, yes. So again, if you've completed any type of degree in the US, your TOEFL would be waived. Associates, bachelor's, master's. It's a great question.
One more question.
Thank you. I was told that if you come from Nigeria, you have to do TOEFL,
You do.
but I think okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Nigeria and the Philippines still are required by the university to complete the TOEFL.
Okay, so last but not least, as you see, the application deadline is November 1st, 2018, this year. So like 5 months from now, 4 months from now. But as you can see, you can submit any accompanying documentations by January 15th of 2019. So what does that mean? So if you guys are taking, again, prerequisite courses this upcoming fall, it's not going to be done until December, right? As soon as you finish in December, have it sent over to us. But we need it by January 15th. Also, for your letter of recommendations, okay, your recommenders actually have until January 15th, not November 1st. So we're actually giving you a little bit more time to make sure that your recommenders are submitting that portion. And then again, we will be sending you guys emails, so everyone who applies, you will be getting emails from us just to let you know, again, of what's missing and or if it's complete. So we will let you know. With that, I would recommend using the email address that you guys actually check. Okay, yeah, definitely. Oh, okay, yeah, and then remember, letter recommendations. You can press that resend, right? Press that resend. And then for any reason, if they're not responding, you should be able to then delete them and then add a new recommender. But remember, you may not want to wait too long because the January 15th deadline could be approaching, pretty fast in terms of whenever you want to remind them and or choose somebody else. And then we will all be here after to answer your questions, okay? So just write them down and remember them. Okay, so in terms of the processing of applications, going to be Rhonda, myself, Stephanie, and Jamie. Our email should be in the packets, okay? You can choose any one of us that you would like, and we'll be able to help you out. And then for the official transcripts, that's also going to be in there as well. Okay. One of the main things is to make sure you pay attention to where it says Attention MECN Program, because we have different programs as well. So you want to make sure you put that in there so when we receive it, we know which program it is. Makes it a little bit easier for us instead of us having to look up your name and so forth. Okay, so here's something here. It's a little disclaimer that we have. So as you guys know, especially for the MECN program, it's super competitive, right? But what we're here to do is really just trying to help you and guide you and kind of give you some insight in terms of what the admissions committee looks for in an applicant, right? But does not mean, you know, everyone who applies is going to get in, unfortunately, right? But I can tell you this, a lot of people who have sat in this room in the prior years that came to information sessions have had a good chance of getting in. The reason why is because they're kind of getting an insight, right, in terms of what we are looking for in an applicant compared to those that maybe just be searching the web, talking to a friend, and coming up with anything that they've heard, right? You guys are here, so you guys are getting the details, okay? So I just wanted to let you guys know that. All right, so I'm going to introduce Craig, and he's going to come and give you all the information.
Okay, hi everybody, my name is Craig. I wanted to give you some information on the cost of the program and what we have in terms of financial aid to cover these costs. You could see here that the tuition for 1 year currently is $28,514. Now, by the time you start, it's probably going to go up. From last year to this year coming up, it went up about $500. So tuition rarely stays the same. It is going to go up a little bit. Now that total you see there includes health insurance. So it's possible that you may have your own health insurance. Maybe you're still covered under your parents or whatever. You have your own health insurance. So you can waive out of that. Insurance is around $3,900 a year, but you have to have some type of insurance. So if you don't have your own, you're required to buy UCLA health insurance, but if you are able to waive out of it, your tuition would be more like $24,000 something. This year it would be $24,613, and we are on the quarter system here at UCLA, meaning a quarter is 10 weeks. So this program is two academic years. So you're gonna go 2 academic years, and there's a summer session of 10 weeks in between. Okay, summer is around $4,600. Okay, so there's 2 of these, what you see here, the 24,000 something, and summer in between is around $4,600. You pay the tuition about a week before classes start each quarter, but most of you are going to rely on financial aid, and that will take care of itself automatically about 10 days before each quarter starts. That's when we could start releasing financial aid. Projected budget, okay, what does that mean? $53,266. That's not something that you pay the university. You pay the university the tuition, and if you have to, the health insurance. But what the $53,266 means is we can give you financial aid to cover other things like room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. And everybody gets the same allotment. Our allotment for rent is $1,324 a month. So if you are going to move closer to UCLA, maybe you're going to live in graduate housing, kind of keep that figure in mind, $1,324 a month for rent, and then, you know, on paper, you would be able to live off of financial aid. A lot of our students don't work. It's up to you if you do. I believe we're going to have some students come. Are we going to have some students come? So they can kind of tell you if that's feasible or not. We'll wait until they come to answer that question. But anyway, that is the maximum financial aid you can get for 1 academic year. Now, a big chunk of that may be student loans. I'm going to offer you the maximum, but that doesn't mean you have to take the maximum. If you don't want to take out as much loan, maybe you have some savings or whatever, that's up to you. But I am going to offer everybody the maximum there. This year it's $53,266. Okay, so what do you have to do to apply for financial aid? Now, as part of the admissions application, there's a fellowship section. And one in particular is a graduate opportunity fellowship that you have to submit a supplemental essay. And basically what the school is looking for, it's a diversity fellowship, so they're looking for students that are the first in their family to go to college. Maybe you're from a disadvantaged background, things like that. But if you want to find out more about it, it's on grad.ucla.edu. The website will be on the next slide, and you can look at the criteria. And if you feel you qualify for that, then definitely apply. They're hard to get, but I would say in each MECN class, we probably get between 6 and 8 of these fellowships, and they cover tuition, and you get a $20,000 stipend. So the stipend means you could use that for room and board and what have you. And I did forget to mention, if you are a non-California resident or an international student, there is a non-resident fee of $12,245 for an academic year. So you would pay what everybody else pays in tuition plus $12,245. You apply for financial aid, and financial it could mean fellowships, scholarships, student loans. Fellowships and scholarships basically mean the same thing. It's free money that you don't have to pay back. Student loans, of course, you do have to pay back. And you start with the FAFSA if you want to be considered for any types of financial aid, even a student loan. And you could see there FAFSA.gov if you are a US citizen or eligible non-citizen, you would qualify. And the priority deadline for California is March 2nd. You probably won't know if you're admitted at that point, but I would just apply anyway. If you're applying to other nursing schools, you can list multiple schools on this application. You're all probably familiar with it because every college in the country uses this. You probably used it as an undergrad. And you could see there that UCLA's code 001315. Once you are admitted, I have my own scholarship application that I send out to you. And you can see here it's at a later date. So you're going to get accepted. You're going to say, yes, I accept the admissions to UCLA. I send you a scholarship application. And we have donors that donate scholarships to UCLA, and they only want them to go to nursing students. So we do have a nice pool of scholarships we can give out. I would say the average, the range that scholarships, what students get, I would say they average about $10,000 a person, but it could be anywhere from $2,500 to $13,000 in that range per year. Okay, so there's that graduate division website that I was talking about. So if you wanted to log on to that, just click on prospective students and then finances, and it'll give you a description of the graduate opportunity fellowship. And there is a general fellowship, basically called a university fellowship, but you don't have to apply on the admissions application for that. If you do my scholarship application, you'll be considered for that. And well, we could say this, if you just apply, if you do the FAFSA and you turn in the scholarship application, you're gonna get something. I mean, it may be $2,500 or whatever, but you'll get something. So I would say at least, go through the steps and apply for financial aid. Okay, so we were talking about student loans because, you may get $13,000 in scholarships, but it doesn't quite reach the $53 estimated expenses for the year. So these are student loans that come into play. The best loan for a graduate student is the unsubsidized loan. It's $20,500 for the year. Okay, unsubsidized means the interest does start when you're in school. Okay, there's no subsidized loans anymore. You might have had one of those as an undergrad, but there were some federal regulations that changed, I don't know, 4 years ago, and they took that away for graduate students. So there's only the unsubsidized loan, which this year is 6.5% interest. And the interest, like I said, does start when you're in school, but you don't have to start paying this back until 6 months after you graduate. Okay, by then you'll have a nice paying job and shouldn't be a problem. So they give you 6 months after you graduate before the monthly payments start. And the payment plan could stretch out to 10 years, but you know, of course, the faster and the more you pay, the less interest, and you pay it off faster. But it is a 10-year repayment plan. So the unsubsidized loan is a sure thing. The only way you wouldn't be able to get it is if you defaulted on a previous student loan. Now, the second loan is the Grad Plus loan. Now, on this particular loan, the Department of Education does run a credit check. So if you don't pass the credit check, you either have to clean up your credit issue, or if that is not possible, you have to get a cosigner. Okay, but that would be the second loan, and it would basically fill in the rest of your eligibility after we subtract the scholarships and the unsubsidized loan. That particular loan is 7.5%, so it's a point higher than the unsubsidized loan. But if you are going to take loans, you go in that order. You take unsubsidized, $20,500, and then you go to the Graduate Plus loan if you need that. And same thing there. The interest starts when you're in school, but you don't start paying this back until after you graduate. If you wanted to make early payments, sure, the loan servicing company will always take early payments. There's no penalty for what they call prepayment. That's up to you. Okay, scholarships based on both merit and need. Most of our scholarships are going to be based on financial need because once again, most students are not going to work, or if you do, it's going to be, very few hours. But if you are married, you do have to include your spouse's income on the FAFSA. But as a graduate student, you are automatically independent for financial aid, so you don't have to put any parent data. Okay, we're only going to be looking at your data, and if you're married, you and your spouse's income. And we have our own set of nursing scholarships, but periodically, we get flyers coming through the office. I'll email those to you, and you can look for scholarships on your own too. Okay, because of course, the more scholarships you get, then the less loans, of course, you have to take out. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Sorry, I may have missed this. You said most of them are also for international students, except for the FAFSA.
Okay, if you're an international student, you wouldn't be able to fill out the FAFSA, but you could fill out the scholarship application, and we'll do the best we can to give you some scholarships. But you wouldn't be able to get the student loans. You can get what's called a private loan, but you would need a cosigner who is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. But you could still possibly get some nursing scholarships. Yes.
If you received FAFSA during your undergrad, do you still qualify for a grad degree or to get assistance during your grad degree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you applied for financial aid as an undergrad, then that's a separate thing. Once you get into grad school, then the loan limits, the ceiling is higher and what have you. So it doesn't really matter, what you did in undergrad. You would basically get more eligibility as a grad student.
Is there a cap for graduate loans?
Okay, is there a cap on the graduate loans? There is a cap, but it's pretty high. It's $138,500. So I guess it's possible to have that if you took out a lot of loans as an undergrad. Maybe you got another master's degree, I don't know. But all of your subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans cannot exceed an aggregate of $138,500 for your career. The Grad Plus is separate, but just the subsidized, unsubsidized does have that cap. Currently, there is no cap on the Grad Plus.
You said that for like the fellowships and scholarships, they're all due around like November and stuff like that, but we won't know until we get into March, right, mid-March. So do we just apply? Do we have to be current UCLA students to apply?
Right, you just apply anyway on the FAFSA by March 2nd. The fellowships at UCLA awards, you would probably know if you got it in March. Those are the big ones that pay your tuition and you get a stipend. But the nursing ones, you probably wouldn't know until the summer. So let's say you get admitted, you kind of have to, make your decision. I guess not necessarily so much on the financial aid. I mean, I can give you an estimate. Like I said, your scholarships will probably be 10,000 average and the rest loans, but you really wouldn't know about the nursing scholarships until later on.
And is there like any kind of grant for DACA students, or
for DACA students?
Yeah, or any stipends or any kind of fellowships for them?
Yes, but it's kind of like the same as international students. You can't get loans. You can take a private loan, but you would have to obtain a cosigner who is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I guess if you have any individual questions, I'll be here afterwards.
Okay, so the typical MECN student admitted, the ages ranges between 23 and 50. Again, this is your second degree program, so I know there was a question about competing with high school students. You're not competing with high school students to get admitted into this program. Most students come with their own life experience. So, and even if there's a 23-year-old and a 50-year-old, believe it or not, everybody gets along and works together. So age has never been an issue for our MECN program. Of course, this is a nursing program, and so we do generally have more females apply than males, but we do good for the MECN program having male applicants and being competitive for admissions. So for the fall of 2018 admissions, we have 51 females entering and 19 males, and that's way above the national average of male students in a nursing program. Just because you graduated from a UC or UCLA does not give you preference at all. So we have admitted students from the UC system, but also the Cal State and private institutions. So where you graduated from will not give you a boost getting admitted because you were a UCLA graduate, undergraduate. The average GPA for an admitted student that's entering this fall is a 3.56. That's the average GPA. and they come from a variety of different work experience, and some have some healthcare experience, but that is not necessary to be admitted, but you would at least want to volunteer in a hospital setting. We will be looking for volunteer experience if you do not have work experience in the healthcare setting. And this is what makes our MECN program so special, is that people come from different experiences and bring their life experience to the program. And that's what makes the program really great. So I know we have a few of our students here, so we'll get started with those that are here, and then those that are running a little late, we'll just have them join when they get here. And so what I want you guys to do is introduce yourself, share where you went to undergraduate, got your undergraduate degree, your previous career, if you had one, and why you decided to go into nursing and why you chose UCLA. I know that was a lot.
Hello. All right, that's working. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I guess. My name is Lucas Smith. I'll be second year. Both of us are going to be second years in this MECN program. I did quite a bit of school before this. I did community college for a handful of years, about 4, I think. I was working as a high school baseball coach at the time. Not exactly sure what I wanted to do. You guys join? I'll scoot on over.
Can you guys see them, or would you like them to stand up?
I'll stand up.
Better to stand up, right?
There we are.
See their faces?
You can sit. That's fine. I'll stand. We'll switch, I guess. So keep rolling. Yeah, grab a seat. We're grabbing chairs. So I did 4 years of community college, figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Ended up going to Cal State Fullerton down in Orange County. Did that for the 2.5 years to finish up undergrad. Was able to actually travel to Australia as well. So I did a year abroad through a study program with Cal State Fullerton, a degree in kinesiology. So that was sort of my health-related field that I was interested in, and I was always dead set on physical therapy or something of the sports capacity. So I was working in that for about 1.5 years, 2 years before this program in an outpatient setting, and really, really enjoyed it. But at the same time, kind of felt like I was limited in certain capacities to speak to patients on a whole variety of fields. So my mom was a nurse 20, 30 years ago, and kept her license, and it always kind of kept me involved with her wisdom and her knowledge on the human body more than just what I was getting in the physical therapy capacity. So I think that answers pretty much all the questions.
Why UCLA?
Oh, I don't remember that one. Okay. Why UCLA? That's a great question. It would have been different for me, except for 3.5 years ago, I met a lovely lady up here in Los Angeles. So she's a musician here, and we kind of decided, we got married last year, about 3 weeks before the program started, actually. We decided Los Angeles is where we wanted to be, so the greater area. So I had still a lot of choices. There's still a lot of choices just in Los Angeles, but I chose UCLA because I knew the background, what it meant. I knew how involved they already were within the city in multiple capacities, whether research-based or outreach-based. I enjoyed that it was a master's program. Your preference, whether it's worth it or not, I believe that it was. It's a lot of work still. The master's program is, they don't just hand it to you, but I think that it's worth it. I think that it was purposeful for the 2 years we'd be spending on it as well. It was cost effectively just as good, if not better than other schools. So a multitude of reasons, but that's about all I can say. And pass it down maybe this side.
Hi everyone, my name is James. I actually just graduated this last June. So yeah, class of 2018, thank you. What are the questions? Should I just talk?
Introduce yourself, where you went to undergrad, and
Okay.
you had a first career.
And why UCLA?
Why UCLA?
Got it. So I went to undergrad here at UCLA. I graduated 2013. And then after that, I did Teach for America for 3 years. And so I was a high school teacher. I taught math in the LA area. And after a while, I really wanted to get into nursing. And out of all the different schools to choose from, obviously, because I graduated from UCLA as undergrad. UCLA was very attractive to me, and looking into different schools, UCLA just seemed to have really good resources and really good reputation, and so, of course, I applied to all over, but then because UCLA accepted me, I enrolled into UCLA. And thinking about it now, I was really happy with the decision. One thing that I don't think I realized as much when I was applying, but I realize now is that UCLA really helps you. I really like the clinical sites that UCLA has in particular because, of course, because it's UCLA, you really do a lot of clinical things at UCLA health sites. And I think that's really important if you're thinking about like, where do you want to work in the future? And so those connections really make all the difference. So I think practically that was a really great outcome of me coming here.
Hey everyone, so my name is Matthew, and I went to UC Davis and graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's in science in nutrition science. Pretty much after that, I kind of worked at UC CalFresh, which is kind of like an underserved, like targeting like low-income communities, mainly in the Bay Area, like Oakland and Berkeley. So I worked a lot with like senior citizens as well as preschools, kind of educating them and teaching them how to live healthier lives and stuff. I then switched on to like pharmaceuticals and worked for like companies like Gilead and Genentech. But pretty much I applied to UCLA 2 years after I graduated from college. Mainly I chose nursing. I think the reason why is I really like the fact that you as the nurse plan your care for your patient. And I like the aspect of figuring out what you need to do as in terms of priority and what you have to do for best for your patient, for their family and all that stuff. And for me, I think UCLA was my primary decision just because financially it was the most appealing to me. I applied to a lot of private schools and got accepted, but it was something like, especially if I looked towards the future, I couldn't really afford, and having to pay such amount of debt was kind of hard for me to do. So once UCLA accepted me, it was actually the best in terms of financial decision for me. So yeah.
Okay, hello. My name is Fatima, and I actually just graduated along with James. And then for undergrad, I actually came here for my undergrad. I graduated in 2016, and I took probably like a 7-month break between that and graduate school. And in the meantime, I worked at Venice Family Clinic. I don't know if anyone's aware of that clinic. They're really amazing. They work with underserved communities. So I did a lot of underserved work in undergrad, which kind of led me to want to be exposed more in the healthcare field and then more nursing in general, because I worked a lot with the nurses there at the VFC clinic. And then I applied here and I got accepted, and then as well, it was very financially like the best option also because it's just 2 hours from my home. And then UCLA has a name on its own, everybody knows, and it's recognized by everything. And then the clinical sites are really good as well. If you want to work for UCLA Health or even like Cedars-Sinai or any, what you're going to learn later is that nursing is really a small world. So any connection that you build with nurses and nurse managers, et cetera, that goes a long, long way. I've had classmates that have been hired already on the spot because they knew the people and their managers within the unit that they wanted to work in. And I think that's all the questions. Right? Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name's Jackie, and I graduated with James and Fatima. I went to Cal State Northridge, and I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Public Health Education. So between my graduation from there and entering UCLA, I did a lot of volunteer work with like Cedars-Sinai and going into like underserved communities and teaching public health and nutrition, things like that. So implementing nutrition programs for children and their after-school programs. And I came to UCLA. This was probably actually the only school I applied to. And I got lucky, I got in, I guess. And I chose UCLA because I used to volunteer as a care extender, and I really, really, really loved UCLA Health, their mission about, compassion and making it a very individualized care. So I wanted that, and I wanted to project that in the future, or I wanted to be taught by people that felt that way. And so then I could learn how to be that way with other people, and it could be, I guess, fortified. And it's pretty much, and I got accepted, and why not? UCLA, right? So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so now we're going to open it up to Q&A. Okay, you guys are not shy.
Lucas, right? You said that they don't just hand it to you, the diploma. So I was just wondering, your first impression when you walked in, the amount of work, the rigorousness, the amount of hours you had to put in, just an overview of the ballpark, I guess.
The first quarter, I was a bit ambitious. I've never not worked. Like I said, when I did community college, my first 4 years of college careers, because I had a job already. So coming into the program, I was like tentative to not be working. So I got a job on campus as a TA as well, which was a little bit overwhelming, and they all told me not to do it, and I did it anyway because I was bored. It was a lot. The first quarter was a lot. Pathophysiology was quite heavy the first quarter. You're getting used to like the workload, new terminology for certain people, new ways of going about it. So the first quarter was, looking back, it wasn't that much. It was just a total shift of your priorities and your schedule. The reason I say they don't hand you like the master's one was specifically just because you have to work a lot on terms of your research skills. The last quarter for us was very, very heavy on research base. Your own writing, your own presentations, where it's not just I'm doing nursing work, I'm doing research level, then evidence-based, and then can I get into the clinical. So you're doing a lot of work to earn a degree that's worth it. But yeah, there's been a few of us, I think, that are still working full-time jobs. There's been handfuls that are still working part-time off and there's a lot of people that aren't working. So whatever your time management skills or rest levels can be available. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I work too.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to use the microphone.
I worked part-time throughout the whole program. My last year, I worked 20 hours a week, and it was a little hectic because you have to fit that in a Monday to Friday job. So you just really have to schedule yourself. It is doable. I know a lot of people who do work part-time, and then there's a lot, too, that didn't work at all. Probably like 50-50 or a little bit less. Yeah.
Well, I used to work, and then after, I think, second semester or second quarter, I stopped working because my job wasn't flexible with my hours, so I wasn't able to maintain that and keep my grades up. So just depends on how you're able, or like what kind of job you have too. So don't feel bad if you can't keep a job.
And then just to add on, the keep your grades up, you have to keep your grades up. If not, no good. Because it is a master's level program, you have to have a 3.0 or above at all times. So that's just something to keep in mind.
One thing you should consider doing if you do get accepted, and I didn't do, but I know a lot of people did, I kind of wish I did now, is there's a lot of CNA jobs that hospitals offer for nursing students. And a lot of times, for example, for UCLA Health, they have kind of a special program for that. And if you do get accepted and you become the care partner for the hospital, then you're actually almost guaranteed an interview, at least a foot in the door too. And you get to work about like once a week, a 12-hour shift. So I think that's a pretty good balance of like both adding something for your future job at the same time gaining some experience, and 12 hours a week, like one shift a week isn't too crazy, very doable, like on a Saturday or something, so yeah.
Except for the first or second quarter, right?
Yeah, it's after you do Med-Surg A, and it's a little tricky because like sometimes like it's not a very blasted out position, so you kind of have to look out for it. Yeah.
I have a question. Right here. I was wondering if any of you guys had commuted. If so, like how bad was the commute, and like would you recommend? Because I'm like from OC Fullerton actually, so I'm not sure if I should commute or not. So.
I don't commute, but I know a lot of people in my cohort, at least 3 that commute from Orange County, like Anaheim, Irvine area. It's definitely, it's doable because they're still in the program, so that's good. But it's definitely a lot tougher, I would say, just because traffic, as we all know, is not great. So a lot of times, waking up at like 5 or even 4:30 is kind of like the norm, just to get to campus by like 6 or 7 even to avoid traffic. But I know, or at least in our cohort, one person eventually had to switch to like just finding housing, like subleasing, just so it's a little bit easier in terms of studying. Just because your first 2 quarters, your classes are kind of sporadic in terms of the days in the week. As you progress through the program, it's going to be more towards you just sitting in class for like 1 or 2 days, like from like 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 kind of thing. So it's up to you and how you time manage. But people are able to do it, and some people eventually can't. So.
So I commuted for the first quarter, and that was, well, I lived in Burbank, but it's still like the 405 and the 101. It was just awful, so you'd have to find different ways to go about it. But depending where you live, consider maybe taking like public transportation, because then you can sit and study on the bus, like fall asleep, whatever. I know someone, I think in your cohort, that does that. She lives in Hollywood, so she just takes one bus, and it basically takes her here. So yeah, that's a thought.
I have a question. So, first of all, I just want to say congratulations on graduating and best of luck to the rest who are still in the program. Can you talk about the resources available for studying? Like, was it tutoring you guys had, office hours, study groups? Just talk about more of the different strategies that helped you to study, because I know it's very rigorous and labor intensive. So if you can just talk about that a little bit.
They implemented, I think, our year, I think like they implemented, what are they called? Coaches, yeah. So they have coaches, and you can make appointments and sit and talk to them about whatever you have problems with. So go through your work first and be like, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. And it's a bunch of critical thinking. And then go with your, like, make a group of friends. I suggest to study in groups, because other people can teach you something, or they'll be like, hey, like, remember this by doing whatever. Like, there's, things that they think of that you probably won't think of, and it's good to be together. And remember, or try to recognize how you study best, like learn early on, because that'll help you long term.
Yeah, I've got lots of thoughts, so I'll go through it in kind of a logical way, I think. We all got like faculty advisor coaches, essentially is what it's called. You have like someone who's on faculty, that's someone who's going to check in on you every quarter, because sometimes it's hard to go straight to the top. You go into someone that's a little bit more behind the scenes, and you can check in, I'm overwhelmed. This is how I was the first quarter. I was, as a few of us were, on the brink of not doing well in the class. Like, I feel overwhelmed. Here's some different thoughts about it. So that was really cool. They had an actual faculty member that was concerned, knew your name, knew your situation, and they're going to be with you for the entirety of the program. Below that, there was the coaches as well, which is great for the clinical times. I'm not getting it. Can you explain this to me? When you guys have to start writing care plans for your patients, helpful in that degree, or any classes as well. And then obviously we had us as a cohort, and you pretty quickly find like your group, your study group, how that rolls. Resources were always like the library right here. People are always in this library, the biomed library, and they'll open that up to like 24 hours, I think, the week before and the week of finals. All the time? I've never been there. I live pretty close to campus, so I don't have to do that. I usually just go home, is what I've found. But for people that do the commute, they'll go wait out in those places, until traffic dies. So it depends on your scenario, what you want to do. I don't study well in groups. I don't find that to work for me. Other people do. But as far as resources, there's a lot on campus, and we're right here in Westwood, where there's a lot of other things to do as well. So does that answer your question, like, specifically? Okay. You guys want to say something?
So for me, specifically, I'm not great at writing, and in this program, you realize that you have to write a lot of papers, group papers, and one thing that really helps is the Graduate Center has like you can meet up with a lot of other graduate students who are specialized or in graduate school for like English, literature, etc. So they can really help edit in just one kind of resources. So of course, if you guys do get into the program, one thing I do suggest is going to like a graduate orientation where they kind of lay out all the resources that you guys can receive. So it's just something to take note of.
I think one thing too is like everyone thinks about nursing school, they think about like, oh, like a science test kind of thing. That's like what I'm gonna be doing the whole program. But if I reflect back, it's probably mostly papers and group presentations and stuff like that, especially the MECN program, because it's not just the clinical part of it. And so the first year there is like patho and pharm and different stuff like that, but especially the second year, a lot of it's papers and presentations and group projects and stuff. So that's one thing to consider of like something that you're gonna have to be doing, working with other people and like researching all of that and everything that comes with that. I think that's something to keep in mind.
Hi, hi guys. Are any of you guys interested in like primary care or advanced practice roles? Or could you guys speak to your specialties and how the MECN program in terms of clinical and preceptors helped you really continue enjoying what you really love and what you really are geared toward specialty-wise with nursing?
Let me start first. The MECN program does not lead to advanced practice nurse practitioner, and that's when you specialize. So I think what the students should answer is what areas are you interested in, and if you've already received a job, what areas, what floor you would be interested in applying to or working on.
Well, I want to work in the NICU, and I think being at UC, I didn't come in to UCLA thinking that I wanted to do that, and after there's a semester, or there's a quarter, sorry, I keep saying semester. There's a quarter where you are, it's called immersion, and you basically are placed in something that you're interested in, and you get to see, like, this is what a nurse would do on a regular basis. So, like, you work 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and you're placed with one person, like a preceptor, and yeah, you get to see your whole job. And I think that gives you a really good opportunity to decide if that's what you really like, or you'll be like, hey, I actually don't really like that. Now I know, and I can go towards or lean towards something else. So, yeah. And I think to talk about the advanced practice thing, I did see, because I was in that thing, I got to see nurses or, nurse practitioners that were doing the jobs in the NICU, and I was like, oh, I do like that. So maybe in the future I will go and do that, because you have a lot of exposure since you're there all the time, the whole time, pretty much. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Do any of you guys intend on taking the certification exam to be a nurse later, or is that something you have taken it already? Or?
Yeah. So if you're in the MECN program, you can take the exam spring quarter of your last year. So it was this May. So I took it. James, did you take it? Yeah. So I actually took it and I passed it. So yay. And then but that is an option for anyone who wants to take it, because you are qualified to be a CNL. And then I know a lot of hospitals do compensate you because of that certification, along with any other certification that you get down the line. And then go back to your question. I feel like a lot of our classmates discovered what they wanted to do once they were in the program, because they knew they wanted to be a nurse, they wanted to do inpatient care. And I know one of my best friends, she wants to do just public health, and that's what she's looking at right now. So just to get an RN in general. And then because of the different rotations, you're started off in med-surg, so it's a general floor, you see everything. But then later you get to experience peds, maternity, etc. And for me, I got to experience emergency. So I actually want to work in the ER. And that's very different than a regular med-surg floor. But then, I did my preceptorship there. I really loved it. You learn to do everything that the nurse does with her supervising you. And then, you just learn what you love there. I feel like a lot of us, that has been the case. That before their preceptorship, they pretty much have an interest. And then they go for it.
You could correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda, but I've talked to some other professors about like if I did want to pursue advanced practice, what would be the best route, since I already got a master's here. And the advanced practice program and this program do have some aligning classes too, because in the master's program we learn about different like system-wide, like how to think critically and they take some of the same classes. So I believe you could get something called a postmaster's, and which isn't exactly the same thing. But then some of the classes that you do take as a MECN, I believe do like line up a little bit, and then so you might not need to like it might cover. Okay, maybe not. But this is what someone told me a little bit. So you might want to look into it.
So yes, you're wrong.
Okay.
We used to have a postmaster's program, but that was suspended about 4 or 5 years ago. So unfortunately, that is not an option for MECN graduates at this point. When we did have the postmaster's program, what you guys are learning are pre-licensure. When you get into advanced practice, that's a whole different level. So we never gave credit for any of the MECN courses that you completed, other than the physical assessment, which was a prerequisite for the postmaster's program. This fall, we're starting a DNP program, a Doctor of Nursing Practice program, but that program right now is for nurse practitioners already that have a master's degree and are practicing as nurse practitioners. Eventually, they will add the entry-level masters to DNP, so that will be the option for you guys if you decide to continue on to become an advanced practice nurse. Now, to say when that will begin, we do not know. Nobody knows, so just keep in touch with everybody. I was getting ready to say us, but I won't be here. Keep in touch with the school, and I'm sure they'll send out information once that is available.
I think what you and Mindy mentioning, someone had told us in class at one point that maybe some of these classes would transfer, be credited at Long Beach State.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in like a different program. I think what's it? Cal State LA has like a NP program that like you could use some of, because of the MECN you learn. It's not the difference between the MECN and the bachelor's. Those classes might be credited towards. I'm not. I didn't obviously do that program, so I can't say for sure. But it's something to look into, maybe.
I know that there's schools that have postmasters, like UCSF has a postmaster, so you can go prepare to there if you wanted a nurse practitioner, but I think it's more of like a research thing. UCLA currently doesn't have that pathway.
Just to follow up, I'll give a quick answer to him from the male side as well, just because I think ours is a little bit different. I think every time a guy gets into a program, for the most part, it's like, I want to go do ER, I want to go do something acute care. And the 2 points I would say to that, just coming through the program and talking to some people that I graduated too, was whatever your passion is now, like go find it, go talk to people, get a lot of connections, and also keep a very, very big open mind, because whatever our idea of what it looks like before you get there is totally different on the floor every day for 12 hours for the next 2 or 3 years. I'm personally very interested in rehab right now, and actually on the psych unit that I'm on right now, and no one ever talks about psych, and they just say, if you want to come back, we'd love to have you come back, because nobody's super interested. And that's weird to me. So just have an open mind wherever you want to do, like spend time involving yourself in it. So that's why I would say to the people that potentially are thinking about commuting as well, just recognize that. If you can't spend more time here, can you spend time somewhere else, just to make the 2 years really worth it in terms of a quality perspective.
Congratulations to you guys on your graduation. My question may be to Rhonda or Mark. If you have a 3.0 GPA or less, do you get dropped out? Do they drop you out if it's less than that, if you don't maintain 3.0?
You guys want to help me with it? I think I'll attempt it. Do you know for sure? I'm pretty sure. I'll go for it. All right. You would wait a year, right?
So for our students, there's a certain, well, the GPA is a 3.0, and then to pass each class, there's another percentage, right, that you would need to do in order to move on to the next class. The way, as you guys saw, the sample course sequence that you guys have, obviously in order to move on to the next class, you have to complete a class, right, in order to move on to the next quarter and so forth. So for any instance, if you are under a 3.0, I think you do get to some type of probation, or whatever the case is, for a quarter, and then if the next quarter as well, you do not meet that requirement, then you would have to, from there, I don't want to use the word like expel or anything like that, but you would most likely have to wait until the prior year to have the opportunity of again coming back into the program, starting where you left off. Okay. Does that answer it? Okay.
So congratulations on graduating and all the best. So I volunteered on NICU and I really love it. They are really good people. I have a question about med surgery. So I believe the surgical unit is the post-operative unit. Did you guys have an experience on like being like the surgical, like the surgical nursing part of? Yeah, kind of. Is there any like, can you do clinicals or immersions or anything towards the surgical nursing part? Do you guys know?
Yeah, so we're all whispering. We'll try to give you an answer. I think the answer is yes. Med-Surg hits a lot of different units. So my first time on a Med-Surg, we had a lot of like transplant patients as well, if that's what you're referring to. So I mean, many different types of surgery. Is there a specific one that you're referring to? Oh.
So is there any experience that you get?
You guys haven't answered.
The only like OR that I saw was like when I was in OB or like in the NICU. So when they're doing C-sections, I was in the OR, but like during regular med surg, not really. But I'm sure you can get immersion preceptorship there.
It's out there. It's not like the program puts you in that criteria-wise. So you can ask for something like that.
I think, yeah, I think the closest to OR, you can be in like a transplant ICU or somewhere where it's really acute OR setting. And I know as a new grad, you can get into new grad OR programs specifically just for people who want to be a surgical nurse. But in terms of the program placing you exactly in the OR, the quick answer is no. Yeah, but you can see very heavy. You said after the program, you're taking OR program? Yeah, so after we're looking, we're looking for jobs. There's residencies for OR. And then, well, now that we're looking for jobs, we're looking for residencies, which are usually between 4 to a year programs that you're actually working, but they include preceptorship and classes, et cetera, just to prepare you to be a really good, competent nurse. So that's actually what we're applying to right now.
Okay, so it is 4 o'clock. You guys feel free to stay after and ask questions. We'll take one more question because I promised her here, but I just wanted to say if you guys could fill out, I think it's the last form in the packet. It's an evaluation counseling form. If you guys could fill that out and give it to myself or drop it in the front, that would be great. But if it's okay with them, they can stay a little bit after to answer your questions, but we're going to give this last one here for you.
So I have a question about the admission. So I know it's a very competitive to be admitted to UCLA. So I just wanted to know what are some of the things that made you stand out, like to be competitive applicants compared to the ones who weren't admitted?
Okay, so how about this? If you can maybe give them what you think helped you guys stand out, right? So kind of let them know again maybe what you've done and what you've talked about.
Sure. I think I know exactly. I mean, I asked the same question 2 years ago. I didn't get accepted the first time around. So there's that. Second time around, I did. So I can kind of compare, contrast, and think what happened. I know a lot in the first time that I applied, it was a lot about what I was planning to do. So I was in an EMT program at the time, hadn't finished up in it at the time. I was planning on moving to LA at the time. I was planning to volunteer. So that's what I said in the first time around. Second application came by and I had done all those things. I had graduated. I was in LA to stay. I had volunteered through a bunch of programs. So I think that transition spoke to them of saying like, oh, he's not going to just say things to say them to get into a program. He's going to follow through and commit. I would imagine the same is for a lot of these people as well. You guys want to chat?
I think, well, from what my experience was, I thought UCLA, compared to a lot of other schools, really valued differences. So like I was a teacher, right? And my healthcare experience was very small. And I think in the other nursing schools I applied to, that was usually a detriment. But then for UCLA, because I kind of came from a unique place. And I really talked about that and the unique advantages I could bring from my position. I thought that was a positive for UCLA, which I appreciated, but that's one thing, like try to stand out in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much going off that, like UCLA is more of like a holistic approach in terms of acceptancing with applicants. As you can see, like you saw like the average GPA, which is like 3.46, and trust me, I did not come in with that at all. So I was like, maybe I don't have a shot kind of thing. Like you think about all these people who have like maybe 4.0s, 3.8s, up or higher, and I was nowhere near that level, and I thought, maybe I couldn't handle a type of program like this. But truly, like UCLA takes every aspect of you, not just your GPA. Yeah, that's important, of course. But there's other aspects like work experience, who you are, and what your personal statement says. So don't let it discourage you, in a sense, to not apply.
So I had a lot of, volunteer experience, I guess, and that helped me out. But I think it was also, it's heavily weighted on your personal statement. So I talked about why I wanted to be a nurse, why I would make a good nurse, why I wanted to be at UCLA, and why UCLA should want me. So I thought maybe that was nice. I think I sounded pretty confident, so be confident about what you say. And yeah, don't just talk about it, be about it.
That's right. That's why all 5 of you guys are up here for a reason, to be honest. But I just want to say thank you guys as well for volunteering your time. I know here as a staff we'll be here to answer any questions, and then if they want to stay after as well. But just want to say thank you. Again, you guys can contact us anytime you guys have questions. Please feel free, but thanks for coming. All right, thank you.